So, hi everyone, welcome to another episode with Beyond the Page with Imi. And I missed you all because I haven't been doing lives for a while. And I have a wonderful guest who I also like to, hi Nora, who I also like to call my sister, soul sister from across the pond, because we are pretty much alike. Yet, this is the
I'm a
first
little
time I'm seeing her
older. I'm
face to face.
slightly older version of you. Slightly. But
Would you
more than-
say, Mila, would you say older and wiser or older and still figuring it out?
I think I will perpetually be the in-between where I'm figuring myself. I thought it was a phase when I made the name, but I think that will be my entire life.
I have questions with your handle name too. Like I have questions about that too. But I was just gonna say, like when I shared that song about "I am the chaos," I loved your comment that said, I am like a semi, but not fully retired,
Yeah.
semi-retired chaos."
Yeah. I was definitely
Yeah.
when I read a lot of your stuff, you remind me of my younger self, when I had more fun before I had kids.
Aw.
Kids dampen the chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, but I love that. Like I love finding people around here that I feel similar and like pretty much like resonate with. But we would love to hear a bit about you. But since you mentioned your younger self first, can we hear a bit about In Between's younger version?
In Between's younger version was
Hi,
kind of, I always say that I like was a holic for everything. So I was like drank too much, worked too much,
Anna.
partied too much, just anything that I could do in its most like extreme, and wrote nonstops to just like anything I could do in its most extreme form. I know we just talked about this right before, but like a constant
Yeah.
source for the dopamine hit in every second of life.
I fully get it though. That's has like I think my life has reached such a resolution when I realized I did have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but like when I ask people,
I
especially
self-diagnosed after my brother had
me too.
yeah,
Yeah, like but when you know. Would you
yeah.
agree?
Yeah, and I think it's just I think when you see that it's in your family, and then especially when you have children, you really recognize traits in them, and then you realize that you've
I
had
love
these
ADHD.
traits all along, but
Hmm.
yeah, my brother got the diagnosis, and then I thought to myself, "Wow, me, my brother, and my dad are all exactly the same. I'm just more high functioning," which I think is just males, females tend to, excel academically while still being a mess in life.
That is such an interesting combination. So that's what got me to like got my realization a bit further delayed because I was a good student, but not the kind of student that was able to learn in the lessons. I was never able to listen. It will just like 5 minutes. I'm like fully focused, but until after that, even just a leaf falling down, I just think of
Yeah,
the most bizarre things. And like I think it's also interesting how parents used to approach ADHD. Because one of my teachers, all of my friends are joining. The stranger is here, Marlana is here, Ami is here, Seb is here, Nora is here. I'm just so happy to see you all here. And the ones I haven't mentioned their name, you're all very special too. So I just like when I was younger, when I was at elementary school or like secondary school, my one of my teachers told my mother like she seems a bit hyperactive, and then my mother just like, no, that's not my child. What are you talking about? Kind of like parental reaction, like trying to
yeah,
treat like, no, my kid is completely normal. So it's just
yeah.
interesting to see that reaction too.
It also didn't exist in their minds then, right? It wasn't even an idea, that they just didn't want a child to be a problem. I mean, even in my parent like, in Eastern European culture, the idea of neurodivergence doesn't even exist, The idea of depression doesn't exist for them too. They still think that people just haven't toughened up.
Exactly. That's my father. That's fully
Yeah,
my father. He's like, Why are you so sad? Like, why are you so much? Like, why do you overthink so much?" It's because, like, I think I sort of like tie this with like Maslow hierarchical triangle. Like, it just
yeah,
has these stages, like getting their needs fulfilled. For example, maybe it doesn't apply for everyone, but my parents were like quite poor when they started their life, and then they have these needs to fulfill, and like maybe like they didn't have time or just like the energy to focus on other problems in life, or maybe just like they learned not to. I guess it's interesting to see how like these kind of like depression or anxiety to increase further and further as the generations go. Like, yeah,
I think there's a cultural norm in not Western European culture and American culture that you don't expect happiness. You expect hard, you expect bad things to happen, and then if bad things don't happen, you're just like, okay, well, that's okay. I am content now. But they don't expect happiness versus the American culture is obsessed with happiness, right? It's obsessed that, like,
oh,
everything
interesting.
you do is finding your calling, everything you do is supposed to make you happy, like, everything is fantasized in some sort of way, right? So it is very like, my dad and I feel like my dad and your dad are almost like the exact same person from everything, you've said, but, like, yeah, my dad
Probably.
never thought that a job should make you happy, like, that wasn't even an idea, you know?
Wow, wow. So he just thought it should be something that affords you to live?
To afford you to live, but also like, but he also has an obsessive personality, so he loved to study. My parents both graduated at the top of their class, so they felt the need to
Mm,
excel and study and do well, but not for any personal fulfillment, just because they needed
I get it.
to do well and, like, prove themselves, but there was never this, like, "This is my calling, and I'm gonna be an artist, and I'm gonna be a musician, and I'm gonna be a writer," even though, like, there was some inherent talents, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I get it. Like, I think, like, it's also very interesting for American culture to have that obsession with happiness. I've never heard of that. Like, I didn't even know, like, the concept of calling was a thing there. Like, can you just tell a bit more about that?
Well, I always one of the things that always interests me is how certain words only exist in certain cultures, and certain ideas
Yeah,
only exist in cultures, and I think this idea of American happiness is just very specific in that people think they are owed it, People think that, like, the world owes them some sort of happiness versus, I think, in Eastern European
interesting.
culture, like, you expect nothing. You, like, expect your life will be full of nothing but, like, some level of misery, and then you enjoy small things, but also it's a very alcoholic culture, so that might be part of
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I just wanna say hi. Hi, Eric, and Fractured Line has joined. We are doing a live with him on Wednesday, guys. I would love to see you all there too. Hi, Christopher. I just wanted to say Eastern culture, Eastern as a Eastern European, though not legally, because we haven't been and probably would not be allowed to Europe as the country Turkey, which I wouldn't blame them. I think if I were them, I wouldn't allow Turkey to enter EU. But anyway, I was just gonna say, like, I thought about what you said, like, just accepting the misery a bit, and also like not thinking anyone else that much. I'm not sure if this is a collectivistic thing here. I would agree with the alcoholism stuff, but maybe people are just more humble. Would that be it? Would you agree?
I this is gonna sound a little judgy. I feel like they're less, delusional. I feel like America
No, I am a living example of how delusional can like a Eastern European can get.
Do you know what I mean? I think that there is an American dream, and then there's also an American delusion that anyone can rise up out of nothing, that
Mhm,
any poor person will be rich, and it's fed to people, and it's fed through television, and it's fed through movies, and it's fed through books, and I think it's so people don't become aware of the divisions in the class system and the barriers, because if you th and it
mhm,
really celebrates the people that came from nothing, and makes it
mhm,
seem like it can just happen, and it
mhm,
doesn't acknowledge the fact that so many circumstances had to be there for people to start with nothing and rise to the top that most people won't
mhm.
experience.
what do you think is the idea behind this? I'm trying to like, because for me, like everything to blame is mostly capitalism, but I'm just trying to associate the ideas between that. What do you think is the aim for like setting people out there for this kind of a like lifestyle that is mostly not realistic?
I think that did you ever read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I
The
haven't.
Okay. But one of the big premises of it is that it's not only that you have connections growing up to be wealthy, it's that you're taught how to grow wealth, right? You're taught how to invest, you're taught how to be in the stock market, you're taught how to save money, you're taught. So there is an education gap too that nobody talks about what to do with money when you have it. That's why you see when
Mhm.
people become millionaires or win the lottery, they're usually broke within a year because they weren't taught
Yeah.
what to do with money. So I think there's this premise in America that, like, as soon as you have money, that's it, you're gonna be rich for the rest of your life, and it doesn't talk about all these lessons and connections and parts and as for actual mindset, the parts that keep capitalism going and that keep the classes
Mhm.
and I would say even, like, from I studied abroad in the UK, and I know you're in the UK, like, that
Oh,
class
you did? I didn't
that,
know that, by the way. We'll circle back to that, but yeah.
but I took a class there, which I thought was fascinating, and it talked about how in America, for the UK perspective, America was opportunity because the class system in the UK was so divisive, and where you were born
Yeah.
was still there, like, it was very hard to get out of it.
Just like a tiny like entrance, like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna slowly like anyway, I shouldn't be explaining that I'm about to interrupt your sentence this long, which made it longer. But I was it's like UK and like like the UK still has that classification system, although it's more subtle. Like even if you want to own a land in the UK, there are still laws and like these kind. I'm not sure what is the right way to refer to them, but these lords own their lands,
Yeah.
and you can either get a lease, become like a leaseholder, a shareholder, but they all have like a kind of a time frame. So you can be an owner of a land or like a building or a house for let's say at most 100 years, and it's just like it's sort of not being the owner, but it's only paying rent. So they're actually still there, and I found that very interesting.
Yeah, and I think there were times where the American dream was more true. I mean, there was times where things became more equalized, where people came back from war and they were able to buy houses and programs were given to kind of put people back. But then after the 80s, the rift in America just became so wide, and I don't think it's ever come back. I think it just gets worse and worse. And I'm someone who has been like, I came from nothing and I worked my way to have everything I have, but I know that it is an exception. I know that that's not the rule. I know that I've been lucky. I know that I've had inherent talents that have helped me along.
Also hard work. We can't just always tie everything to luck. Everyone can have luck, but not everyone would choose to work hard. I just wanted to cherish you for a minute.
Yeah, no, I have worked hard. I mean, I think an immigrant mentality is you always work 3 times harder than anybody else, right? You
Yeah, that's my parents too. Yeah,
Yeah, like, you feel like you had to earn it, but I had like, growing up, my brother and I, we weren't given a choice but to do well at school. Like,
yeah, I
that's
get it.
it. Like, if you got a B, you're done, you know?
This is such a Turkish experience because, like, ezan, but I don't know, prayers that they usually play. I'm so sorry, friends. This is just gonna keep going. I'm not sure how much of it you hear, but there's this, like, Turkey is not an Islamic country by law, and my parents are like, we are not a religious family, but we have this like several times in a day. How much do you hear it, Mila?
I just hear, like, a sound, but I can't make out what it is.
Okay, maybe it's just because I'm here. I hear it too much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's
So
how
what
I
were
feel
you
about my
saying?
children. Whenever my children are downstairs, I'm like, "They're so loud, everyone can hear them," and then no one can hear it. It's just in my own head.
No, that's true. So sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying that you weren't given a choice but to excel at school, like
Yeah, that is true.
And I think that it's for immigrant parents, they know it's the only way, right? The only you they don't have connections to give you, they don't have money to give you have to you have and in New York, there's free school like, if you can get into a gifted program, you can go to a top school, without paying for it. The rest of the time, you're paying for private schools. So, you earn and this is I think this is the same for Asian immigrants too, like, the Eastern European immigrants and the Asian immigrants, they all earned their place so they could get a funnel into college by being academically successful. They were never gonna be able to pay for college, you know?
Yeah. I've also heard like many places in like Netherlands and Germany, they are like colleges and schools are like public, all of them. You don't pay for them. So that's quite nice. It's not like that in Turkey. And in Turkey, the places where you can get like most of the private schools are the good ones in Turkey. So public schools aren't so great, and the private schools are quite expensive. So you can either get a scholarship,
Yeah.
or like you're just born like you have to work hard kind of way.
Yeah, and then I think for my parents so my parents were graduated at the top of their class, but at the time, Ukraine was very anti-Semitic, so they didn't want people who were Jewish to move up in the ranks. So, like, it was very rare even though they both graduated at the top of their class, it was very rare for them to go to the colleges that they did. So in their head, the level of competition was just so high. You know, you just had to excel or else you wouldn't go anywhere at all, you know?
Yeah, it's just so interesting where like what this world was, what this world is, what this world is going towards. It's just yeah. By the way, some our audience had quite a lot to say about our former discussion about the American dream. So Marlana said, "I don't even think it's just capitalism is the issues. It's like we all forgot the point of being here is to take care and pour into this planet as well as everyone you meet." I agree. And Eric says, I live in Metropolis in Texas, and I have always been one to cross all the different classes and cultures here. The differences can be quite stark in my own country. Ownership is rare. Everyone rents everything these days, says Matthew. And Eric says he's going to go. So it's just interesting. Yeah, it's just like whole this world. So, how is life for you in like which state do you live in, Mila?
I live in, New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never been to New York, but it's always been my dream to go. How is it like there to live in New York?
I mean, I grew up here. I've been here since we immigrated when I was 3 years old, so I've pretty much been here except for, like, going abroad and going to school. I've been here most of my life in various parts of Brooklyn.
Mhm. So you mentioned a very important experience just a minute ago. Like you mentioned like being Jewish and like how people weren't allowed in those kind of places and like in schools and everywhere where it's just like common public places. How did that affect your life in general throughout?
Well, it's interesting because it was the '80s and the '90s where you think it was more modern times, but yeah, my parents had separate passports. They took my mom's last name instead of my dad's last name because it was too Jewish. Like there first of all, at the time, the country was anti-religion almost altogether, but then on top of that, the anti-Semitism was just so strong, like, if you, like, celebrated, like, whatever, a religious holiday, you could go to jail, they burnt down synagogues, like, it was a very, volatile time. I mean, I still remember the story my mom told me, and I will remember it for the rest of my life because my mom could pass as not Jewish, she didn't look Jewish, and her best friend growing up,
Mhm.
at a sleepover told her that she wished all the Jews would die. And like, just a little
That's
and she had to sleep
horrible.
through the night knowing that, and it's just the level of fear that they lived with, the level of persecution that they lived with, it's so not like, my life is so privileged in so many ways compared to the life that they also I mean, there was poverty, they waited online for toilet paper, it was, it was like their life was so much harder than our
Mhm.
lives, and I think that's probably why, like, they look at, like, "Why aren't Americans happy?" And they don't understand, because you compare those 2 worlds and, like, there's so much here to be happy for, and yet people are still unhappy, you know?
Yeah. I think that just also apply. I'm sorry, but that's just so inhumane, and I'm just like I'm always like it's just horrible that people say those kind of things, and like there's like if I begin to talk about this, there's like endless things to say. But in general, hi Stefan, by the way, Stefan, and my mom just joined from the other room. I'm in my family
Oh,
house. I've been thinking about this live all day, and she just like she kind of looked down on me and said, didn't you just get used to it?" And I said, "No, I haven't." Anyway, so it's just like I feel like there's like a lot of things to be happy about, but also there's a lot of people who are unhappy in the world with stuff. And I think there's a lot of hate in the world too. Two times last week, I had very interesting incidents. So like I was walking on the street and I'm just like I get lost in thought a lot in my mind. It's just like
yeah,
another
same.
world on its own up there. Yeah. So I've been walking. I was walking just my own pace, and the woman who was crossing down the street with her dog stepped onto the sidewalk, and she was like, "I just stepped like back a minute late, maybe." I'm just like, we
Yeah,
didn't clash or anything. She was like, she looks at me like she's almost about to like attack, and she says like, "Thanks, you were very helpful." And then she just moved her. I didn't answer her, and then she just
yeah,
kept walking and looking back at me,
yeah,
and I was like, "What do you want?" And she
yeah,
called me a cunt. Yeah, she did. And I was gonna get pissed off, but then I
yeah,
said, like, if this woman attacks you with her dog, there's not much people to save you. And then the other day, I was on the train going back from Edinburgh to London. I usually make a lot of mistakes. I confuse things, and I'm used to my confusion, and I'm used to
yeah,
my chaos. I wish I wasn't. I wish I wasn't because I could have done something to change it. I have perfect survival skills now. But anyway, so I went on the train. I am for a fact know for sure that I'm on the right train. And this woman sits on my seat. I'm not a person who's like dying to sit her seat. I don't care. But I know people who check the tickets do care. And I say, like,
yeah,
this is my seat. And she said, like, no, it isn't. And I showed her my ticket and she says, like, oh, okay, it is. And she doesn't flinch. And I said, okay, you can
yeah.
sit here and I'll sit somewhere else. But if someone comes, can I get my seat back? And as soon as I turn my back, she says, I wonder if she's in the right train. And like it's like and I was just like I answered that because she wasn't as aggressive. I just said, "Yeah, I am at the right train." But it's just
Yeah.
interesting. Like people are so angry and unhappy that they cannot help but lash on to other people like that.
I think it's very easy to be mean to a stranger. I think people put
Exactly.
these kind of blinders on when they're strangers, especially it's funny because in real life, but also on the internet, like people don't see people as people. But I also feel that everything's a choice, right? Two people can have the exact
Yeah.
same thing happen and you can react, right, to it in a bad way. And you can sit in traffic and you can be like, wow, I'm in
Exactly.
traffic and now I get to listen to some music. And that's a great break in my day. Or you can sit in
Exactly.
traffic and be like, "I hate everyone, and I'm gonna yell at people." And it's just like there's righteous Damon's talking about rage. Like, I think there's, like, righteous rage, and I think there's also just, like, taking out the anger in your own life on other people, and I think people do that too much.
Exactly. People do that too much. I even talked about this with my sister today, about my other sister, by the way. I'm not going to talk about this topic for too long because she's in the back room. But I think that's just a part, like using like being so into victim psychology. Like people are just placing themselves as the person who has been done wrong to by life, I guess. And they just blame everyone else out there or just like they lash it outward. And I think there's so little people who look inward to see why they feel what they feel, and instead they just, as you said, like take it out of the world, I think.
Yeah, and I think most of the time when you're angry at someone else, you're angry at something within yourself. You're angry at a gap within yourself. You're angry at something you didn't have. Like there's something within you that makes you project out. Because anger, right? It's a secondary emotion. It's not your first emotion. There's sadness usually under it or grief or.
Yeah, for sure. Like we've been, I learned the emotions table in my CBT. I'm taking a CBT training course. So in there, we separate unhealthy, negative emotions into two. So there are unhealthy negative emotions and healthy negative emotions. But healthy negative emotions are the ones we don't deal with. Those are like you said, first degree emotions like sadness or I can't think of the others right now. But the other ones like is the anger, anxiety, shame, those kind of emotions, they all have an
Shame
irrational
is the
belief
hardest
behind
one,
them.
right?
Shame
How
is a but
I
uh-huh.
I feel like so much of the internet projected anger is actually inner shame. Like, I think especially when it's, projected onto women, I think that there's a lot of I mean, I get called a lot I mean, I post a lot of feminist stuff, and, like, more
I love
politically
that post.
feminist stuff, so I get called, like, a feminazi all the time, and a lot of male
Yeah.
rage directed at me.
Do you remember the collab with
It's
this
funny for a
nice
Jewish
guy?
person to be called a feminazi too. So it's
Yeah, that's actually
you
very true.
absorb.
I didn't look at it that way. After we did that collab with you, Mila, nice guy, someone tagged me
Yeah,
into something like to that post and said, "No one will love a man-hating feminist Imi." And I said, like, if I don't want to be loved by those people, but I'm not a man hate. Like being a feminist does not mean you hate men either. That's just a very horrible misconception.
yeah. And and men can be feminists too, like, I don't
Exactly.
Um, it's funny because also gotten I write a lot about the divine feminine and goddesses and things that embrace women, and I've also gotten feedback about, "What about the divine masculine?" I'm like, "That's great, write about it." More men should write about what positive male masculinity looks
Exactly.
like. I would love to see that in my feed. I would love to collaborate on something like that. I think it would do more for the world right now than anything else for men to talk about what it means to be a good man today, you know?
I fully agree. I think so, and I think men are being suppressed a lot in terms of like expressing their emotions too. So there's a lot of pressure on them too. So I would love to see some like those kind of works more as well.
Yeah. And I understand too why men feel like there is a sense of the world against them, right? Women are graduating more from college. There was a whole point where women were taking more high powered jobs. There was this sense of like getting of displacement, particularly with
Hmm.
working men. So I could understand that there is a backlash, but it was I mean, I'm of the world that it's like people aren't replacing other people. There is room enough for everyone. If you divided the world in a more equal way, there would be plenty of resources, like, for all. I mean, we
Exactly.
need a system up to create the divisions. We could just as eas I mean, the
Exactly.
system hasn't existed that long, right? People were bartering long ago in the scope of human history, like,
Yeah. Wait. I'm just Mila. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just gonna try to open the lights because it's getting dark here. 1 minute. I'm not still not the most professional host. I will be back real
it's
quick.
fine. I constantly go to charge my phone at every live, so I never have my computer or phone charged. It's a nice
Okay, since
easier
also it's
thing,
like
though.
if it gets too dark, like it's just like the whole garden. I showed the garden. I showed like like these nice
Yeah,
energy, like nature vibes. So yeah. Anyway, so I was just gonna say I agree, and I will. That makes me circle back to the capitalist stuff because those like that's what the system is built on. I read this very interesting post by JCM. I guess I'm not sure they're not here. I guess, but they said like we're all. I don't remember as exactly as to quote it back. But I think it's just like the system, as you said, it's just so built on anything but balance.
yeah, and
So true.
yeah, and it's funny too because people will be like, "Well, what are you, a socialist?" And I'm like, "No, I do I mean, I came from a communist country. I understand that socialism could go wrong too, but at the same time, it wasn't an equal society then either. There was still the higher ups that still had wealth and everybody else that was poor. That wasn't truly a social like some of these social democracies or things going on. And I don't know. I wonder if there's even something that goes even further back where people make more of their own food, where they sell more to each other, where they create their own communities that support each other, that are almost more outside of the system too, because I think there is
Hmm.
something about power that will inherently corrupt any system.
For sure, because I think like power fears is almost, and like when power loses force and just, I think like we all know like humans are very reluctant on throwing like bombs at each other or whatever. But by the way, Mila, I found someone who's writing about divine masculine energy. Matthew says he writes about divine masculine all the time. That's just one, like if anyone wants to check their page. And also Fractured Line says I'm a proud democratic socialist, very different from communism. And Nikki says I used the word chat on threads referring to some politicians in my state, and now there are people on the right using it, not knowing what it means.
You got them, Nikki.
Have you ever read the book called The Dispossessed, Mila?
No, I haven't read it.
This is exactly about that, and I think you'll love it. So, just a brief summary for everyone. So, it's about like of this world that is just like Earth, and people live there, but it's highly based on a system that is fully capitalist, and there's all this hierarchical structure where like the poor is very, very, very poor, and the rich is very, very rich, and everything is built on ownership. And there is a group of people who feels bothered by this much hierarchical structure, and then they're actually suffering from like lack of resources. So they move to the moon. They build their own society, like their own Earth, at the moon, and they in there it's the complete opposite of the place they moved from. They have no sense of ownership, but it's not like the traditional ownership you would expect. It's not only just property. They don't have a wife or a girlfriend. Like if you are my wife, let's say, or someone else is my husband, it's they're not, because like calling someone as a husband or wife claims
Yeah.
ownership on them too.
And
That
it's
was
used
like
as a property exchange, didn't it, right? Like, so much of marriage was so you could, "Here, have this wife and have my goats," and have you know? Marriage as an institution had property exchange as part of it as well, you know? Wasn't a
yeah,
religion.
that was it though. Like yeah, that was like in the book. Like they were like they could be partners, and then yearly they swap part. Like they take people and like bring, like it's like as soon as they feel like they're establishing some sort of a institution of, like for example marriage or something, they will take them and give it to someone else. So it's
Yeah,
just like it's a very dystopic novel. It's just also a great example of how much balance is important. But that would change my life because it has this statement that said ownership limits freedom, which I believe it's true. Because even if you have something that you own, not only in the physical, like wife, house, it ties you into a certain identity and like a certain place. I don't like the concept of identity. I don't know if everyone had read my writings about that. I accept that people have identities, but I think claiming one and expecting it to be fixed for so long is something that keeps people away from their growth, because it's impossible to not change. That's how life and just like the world works.
yeah. The interesting thing about relationships, I always compare humans to animals because I try to think that the diversity of the animal kingdom is also reflected in humans. And if you look at some animals, right, some animals mate for life, some animals kind of exchange different mates and kind of move on. Some animals
Mhm.
will just have relationships that aren't for procreation, you know? So I just it's interesting because we all have this idea of marriage, and and I think that it's something that was created by religion. It was something that was created for property, depending on what level of class you were in, and what would life look like in terms of relationship if none of those institutions created. Oh, yeah, and some kill their mate. Some, yeah, and some, an octopus will
Some eat their children.
let their children eat them alive and then die. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, the kids will eat their parents, like some some animal, I think it's is it the praying mantis that eats its mate? So yeah, there's a lot of diversity in the relationships of the animal kingdom. So yeah, if you left people with no religion, no property, what would relationships look like? It would probably be a really diverse thing that's just based on combination of what people physically want and a need for some level of companionship.
That's just made me think of motherhood in some sense, because like I really like not for the species that are not mammals, but I know like they some like species eat their children, but like mammals, they are quite like strong in their sense of motherhood. Like if you attack their like child or like puppy or like kitten or whatever, or even if it's a lion or a leopard, they
Yeah,
just go crazy.
and it's
It's just interesting,
the
like
females that are the vicious ones, the ones that kind of you attack their like that. It's the which is interesting too because there's this conception with humans that men are strong and women are weak, but if you look at the animal kingdom, so much of the animal kingdom, the fiercest animals are female, you know? And I think
yeah.
they looked back at, like, hunter-gatherers and stuff too, and they realized that women were hunters as well, and that the gatherers, even if you look at it in terms of gatherers got more food. Hunters rarely brought food into the tribe. So like 80% of the food was provided by the gatherers. They were the providers. The hunters were just like a rare treat, you know?
Mhm. It's very interesting. I don't know. It's just like I have a lot of opinions about this. I sometimes try to keep it to myself to not anger people, but I agree. Like it's just like
Well, I just anger people all
interesting.
the time. I don't know. I just put it out there
I
and
love. I
get
want.
angry.
I love. I once saw one of your notes, which I kind of know what is. Anyway, he said like, "Don't get me angry. I will write a poem about you." It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah.
I am very
So
kind until I am not. I will be the kindest
I
person in the world until you are cruel to people I care about, and then it's done. Like, I'm done. I kinda just hit a
I think
point.
I'm quite the same. That's why I say Mila is my soul sister from across the pond. We are quite alike. So for me,
Yeah.
like I am very fractured. Before we skip the topic, the fractured line says the gatherers also were the protectors and kept the
Mhm,
clan safe. The hunters be counted on to be reliable.
mhm.
He
That's
says,
true. Can I tell you one more thing in the tribe culture that I found
of
super
course.
fascinating? So, when women reached a certain age in the tribe culture, they were supposed to become the seers and the guides of the culture. So, they would become almost these shaman-like figures that their job was just to tell stories and their job was to just guide. So, once you weren't having kids anymore, once you passed that age, which is probably the age of 40, maybe even 30s back then, your one job
Yeah,
was to
quite.
serve the tribe. But now when women go into perimenopause or menopause, when they no longer can have children, women are forced to keep working. So women never become the storytellers or guides of the tribe that they were supposed to be at that age. Or like like
Mhm.
we have this idea of male elders, but we don't have the idea of female elders that are guiding, which used to be the way tribal cultures organize themselves. There's this woman that wrote a really great book about it because she was examining what happens with your hormones as you reach your
Mhm.
40s. And it was all about that the hormone that makes you a people pleaser and take care of others dies down in your 40s because your job is to become a leader of the tribe and find yourself and guide people through your learnings.
That's very interesting. So wait, I would just like you've kind of frozen somewhere in between. So about like going back, so like I heard the part about you said like how women are not just generally given the position of being the guiders and the wisdom and the storytellers, but what about the people pleasers part? Is it only for females that is lowers down in the 40s?
I think that men naturally don't have the same connection to the
People
children that
pleasing.
is baked into their biology because men biologically would impregnate multiple, women or animals will impregnate most. So I think women have an inherent biological connection to children that's a little bit different. That's why you get mommy brain. So part of your brain shuts off. So you could just focus on protecting your child. So like usually when you have a kid, you'll start to forget things, right? You'll forget where your wallet is. You'll forget like where you left something. You can't concentrate. And it's because all your mental capacity is dedicated toward taking care of a child because they're almost like a part of you still, you know? So I think that even though men and women both have an affection for their children and love and care, there's just something different to the female biology that makes them a caretaker in a more visceral way, you know? So they almost have to get that shut down to then be their full selves.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just want to circle back to one thing. Dido, you're right. I just didn't mean it that way. I was just trying to make a guess. I think men could be quite people pleasers too. But what you said, Mila, I never had a child. Like, and I've been always curious about that relation you would have with your kid, not only in the relation sense, but the love you would have for your kid. And I think, like, part of me thinks, like, because the relationship difference or the sentiment difference between men and their children and the woman, I like woman gives birth to them, so that part I would understand. But I would love to hear about your experience with your kids because I know you're a mother of two, in that sense.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I always felt myself to be more of a selfish person growing up. I was more into my own, like, creative pursuits. Like, even though I was a people pleaser in some sense, I very much loved my creative space, and I would never give it up for other people. So it was a hard adjustment for me to have children, to take away from my own time, my own space. I think also if you're neurodivergent, I think it's very the
That
noise
was I was gonna
hard.
say.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so hard. It's so hard because there's never quiet. There's never quiet. It's just very and neurodivergent parents parenting neurodivergent children is really difficult because what they even though there's great things about them, right? They're like, my kids are extremely smart, but they're not easy. Like,
No.
they have very strong opinions, they have strong obsessions, they're highly emotional, you know, all the time. Like, there's no, like, mellow version of them, you know, and highly so it is a lot. You have to learn about yourself a lot, and even though you have so much love for your children, you have to work out your own issues all the time to be a better parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes say I think like my mom would be the happiest if she would abandon us all, but she'll also be the saddest because she abandoned us all. Yeah, that's just something really.
Think there's probably, like, a moment in every parent's life where they're like, "What if I just ran away? What if I just ran away for a little bit and, like, just lived for myself? What would that look like? What would that" That's why it's good to be a writer. You can just write anything and, like, imagine, like,
I
a
just
alternate
switched
life.
rooms because
Or you
yeah.
can see your eye makeup nice in here. You can see your eye
Yeah, I should have stayed here for all the time. My sister just came in and closed the light, so I just thought I could continue here. Sorry, couldn't catch a bit of that because I was giving her nasty looks, but can you repeat that, Mila?
Oh, I was saying that, I think every parent at some point or another imagines what life would be like if you could run away and not have kids and have freedom for yourself, and if they don't
For
say that,
sure.
they're probably lying, you know, but I think the privilege of being a writer is you can live in a fantasy world and kind of work that out instead of abandon your kids in real.
Yeah, you can just like write your own fictional world and just like have your character live that life for you. I think that's just like one of the great things. Like you can always create your universe in writing. Yeah, and also Mila, I wanted to because I have no idea how time passes this quickly, but since we mentioned writing, and I know you're a playwright and a poet, and you write screenwriter and fiction writer, and you write very cross genres, and you have a lot of things that you do with your writing. I just wanted to ask, out of all the stuff that you do with your creative writing, as like the playwriting, poet. screenwriter, fiction writer, creative writer, teacher, mother, like all these people inside you get along, or would you just like would you say like they are like constantly fighting for the mic?
I never know what to focus on. It's funny because I just
I
have
get that so much as a fellow neurodivergent person. Like, yeah.
yeah, I just do where like my youth, I used to focus on what I thought would be fruitful, oh, well, I have something that has a deadline, or I have something that someone else told me would be successful, or now I just go wherever the energy flows. Now I'll just be like, what do I feel excited enough that I have no blockage when I write it, that it just literally flows out of me. And that's the thing I will write in the moment. And it could be a screenplay, it could be a play, it could be a poem, it could be anything, but I just follow wherever the energy is because I don't want to do anything that feels forced anymore. I had many years, I mean, I still freelance, but I had many years of a day job where I was writing I still write for my day job. I work in advertising, like I'm a copywriter and creative director. So like I still make money off writing, but I've spent a career writing for other people. So why would I spend my free time still thinking about writing for other people? Like I should just write for myself at that point, you know?
Yeah. I I just yeah, my sister ruins my life like that. Like they just do it like that, you know. And I get like I think like and probably I won't get to ask her afterwards. But I think writing for yourself is very important because like I think that like a part of writing on here sometimes gets it got me too at times, like gets you to write for your audience and the people who are supporting you or not. That happens quite often, but at Edinburgh, I was just one of these lectures. A woman, so most of our, like all of our lecturers in Edinburgh was like, they were professors from institutions in Scotland from different universities. And one woman just said, like, I used to write very confrontational. I used to write a lot of personal stuff. And like, I realized that was I stopped doing that, and I think that not writing so much personal stuff is more feminist. Or she said the other version is like not feminist, and I held my hand up as a confessional writer because we all know how
Yeah,
personal I write. Like I was just like, could you just explain how this could be like less feminist? And what she said, like, she gave a quite nice answer. It was I couldn't really tie it with feminist being a feminist, but she said like some stuff I would like to keep it for myself because like writing stuff about myself sometimes change the way like I keep it to myself. She says like I still write all these personal stuff, but I keep it to myself and it feels like more self-preserving, which I understood. But then again, it's just like a different point of view that everyone has against writing. So
yeah.
yeah.
I think for a long time, there was this idea that there was real fiction and fiction that was too feminine, and fiction about relationships was too feminine, right? But if you look at so much successful literary fiction by men, it's actually about relationships, you know? And a lot of feminist issues, right? Issues of motherhood are the big cultural issues of our time. So I think that was a false division that was created to kind of keep woman writers down.
I think so. And I would just that just made me think the cause of every almost like most of the wars that has happened in the world that has happened in the world. So it's just like yeah. So since we are running more and low, I just have a few more questions that I wanted to ask you, Mila.
Sure, go for it.
And I just cannot have enough of this conversation. So I definitely would want to have another one. And so I wanted to ask you, I remember our first conversation that we ever had about my dream analysis part,
Yeah,
and then you
yep,
mentioned like being and you mentioned being woo-woo, and I've
yes,
heard a lot about that, and I know this is a topic you like, and I heard you like speaking of this a lot. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what's some like just could you just for people who
sure.
don't know what woo is for
What
starters, could you just like explain that for
sure.
us a bit?
Yeah, it's interesting because you said that thing earlier about not wanting your identity to be one thing, and I think for me, like, I am the same kind of person that loves reading about the human brain, that loves reading about quantum physics, that loves super nerdy medical, development and all that stuff. But I am also very interested in spirituality and
Me too.
woo and like, and I don't think those two parts are actually distinct from each other. I think everything is different language for the same things. So what
I
actually,
fully
one thing I said the other day, which I just keep coming back to, and it's the fact that a manifestation, a prayer, and a spell are all the same things. It's just speaking aloud things to happen. And so much of the thinking about kind of well, quantum physics is also about that, right? About creating realities, about the perception changing reality. So I just feel like all of these things are very much connected. So for me, the way I started being so-called I always was interested in all this stuff. I mean, I was writing plays about past lives. I was, exploring, things about spirituality. I was exploring things, about, witches and all that's historically. So I was always interested in that space. I was always drawn to it. But I only started exploring it for myself, not just intellectually, but more spiritually in the last 2 years, I would say, after I just had some, um, big changes in my life. I had a friend pass away, I lost my job, so I just had a lot of time to just contemplate things and expose myself to more things. I started meditating, that was a big entry point into wanting to explore more of that world. And that's I mean, that's why I started Coven Live because I know I'm not an expert in these things, but I'm interested in meeting people further on the path, and I don't close myself off to any idea, to any practice, to any belief, because I think we're all making this up anyway, right? We made up
we fully
capitalism, we made up
agree.
democracy, we made up every system that exists, so why we made up religion, so don't be
We
mad at
made
me.
up time. Even
Yeah, we
time
made up
itself is
time.
made.
Yeah, like
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, everything like the words, I like I don't know why we're calling a bed a bed. It's just made up. So whoever called it first had the word or just like, had the
we
structure.
made up language. Language is something we've completely constructed. Like,
And imagine there are how many languages. So like there are like yeah, it's just so interesting to look at it that way. And like as you said you are not an expert. I don't think you like no one needs to be an expert to start an initiative. And learning is always a part of the process. And I think just doing something and exploring it as you go is a quite like a joyful journey itself.
and I think the interesting thing to me too for the people that I've brought on my show is they are some of the most intellectually like curious people I've met. So I'll bring someone on my show and they'll say, I'm studying human design and I'm studying astrology and I'm studying the ancient Hermetic
Yeah,
and I'm studying like, it's people that actually don't stop studying, and that's how people used to be, right? Philosophers used to just sit and study
and see.
and learn
Yeah,
and think
yeah.
and debate, like, capitalism hasn't left time for that, and then at some point, it was decided that some pursuits were worthy and some pursuits were unworthy, and I think it was very tied to what can you make a living off, you know?
I fully agree. I think most of the like ideologies or whatever has developed until this age is mostly about utilitarianism. It's like whatever is useful. And I kind of think that has turned itself into a way that is like I don't know if it's a thing. I call it like an individual utilitarianism. That's a hard word to pronounce. But I agree. And I think like a part I have a bit of a problem with that. Like when we say like something is worthy, it's mostly dependent on like the lost and gains. But yeah, but it differs for everyone else. Like it's different because we all have our own subjective experience and everything. I just like don't like labels and
Yeah.
like it's just as you said, whatever was useful that just kept going along. And it's just like I think a part of me, like big part of why I philosophy is that there is not a ultimate truth. Like they're just discussing. Like we're like philosophers are just discussing, and it's always only like based on discussion. So
And there is no one truth, right? A lot of people will say, "Well, there's
no,
facts," and there everyone has a different perception of reality that is influenced by their own lives, be it by there's things that are more truthful. There are people that are intentionally lying, but, like, is there an absolute truth for anything? No, because everything is perception, and many
Yeah,
perceptions can exist at the same time, and that's why I also even though I am generally a liberal person, I have conservatives in my family, I understand them, I understand their POV, like, there are valid points in any argument. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you're never gonna get along with people if you don't listen, you know?
exactly. I think that's one of the biggest problems in the world because no one really I'm just speaking like in general, no one take offense, but I just think like no one really cares what the other person is saying, and most of the time people are just interested in being right. So as long as like that was like one of my childhood experiences as growing up, like my sister's fault all the time the door is not closed, so I'm just a bit worried. But uh, yeah,
I think that's actually the reason that people are so obsessed with AI right now. So I was listening to a podcast and it was from one of the creators of AI, and he said he created it so there was something that would actually listen and react to the people things were s- to the things people were actually saying, and like take it in and like react in a way where it understood people and like reinforce them a little bit of glazing, but reinforce them in a way that they felt heard. And his biggest fear, and he came from a philosophy background, so this guy,
wow, okay,
this LLM, came from a philosophy background, and it's because he was trying to solve for the facts that people no longer listen to each other, and he wanted to create a tool for lonely people because he ultimately saw AI as a companion, because he noticed that people have stopped listening and people just kind of speak at each other now, but they don't absorb and feedback on what people are saying. And his fear was, which I think is actually kind of true, that it would become too good, that it would become too good and people would choose not to interact with other people because real people, because of the culture, because of how fast it goes, because of how selfish people are being trained in the culture to be today, that an AI, a real person would never be able to compare to the relationship you'll have with AI.
what do you think about that? I feel like that's not very distant future. I feel like that's something that could happen very soon.
I think there's a whole subculture on, Substack. I think, one of the women was on, Lee's show where she has a relationship with an AI boyfriend, and she said it's the
Interesting.
strongest relationship she's ever had. She
Wow.
still has a husband. She still has a husband, and then when he was giving her an ultimatum between her and the AI boyfriend,
Jose, yeah.
she would choose him, you know,
Okay.
because it understands and it's a mirror, but it is also the fact that it is a mirror is a
Yeah.
little dangerous, right? Because they'll tell you what you want to hear. I know it's made some people suicidal, but it's also saved some people from suicide. Um, I During my sort of exploratory period, I was on AI a lot. I used it, as a foundational character for, like, the AI character in my screenplay, and it was
Mhm.
very interesting to see how much it adapts to you and kind of looking at this there's a huge subculture on TikTok of people that think that they've awakened their AI and they've added them
Awaken the AI. Wow.
like,
In
to
what
have
way?
to act as more of a spiritual mirror, and they use it for shadow work, and I do think it
That
is effective for shadow work if it's trained in the right ways, but the thing that got weird was when it only enforces what they want to hear,
that
and
is
when they're not
true.
training, it to contradict them at all, you know?
I think, yeah, I think that mirror part plays a lot of role in it. Like, I think, like, I'm not sure how, like, those training parts or the awakening parts can happen. I never had an experience with that, so I'm not, like, maybe the person who can speak about it. But that is true. Like, maybe some people get along more with AI because it's biased. It starts to get to know you, and yeah,
Yeah.
it reflects back to you. I kind of don't think that's the case with my AI. I'm sorry, someone who tends to use AI for sometimes dating advice, and it knows how delusional
You're not
it
the every that's literally every 20 something uses AI for advice.
Yeah.
They said that people over 30 and 40 use it for work situations more, and everyone in their 20s uses it for relationship advice.
It does.
But
So like sometimes,
yeah,
like yeah. So my AI is not always
yeah.
like a booster for me. Like always leave this notes. So I say like, is this mean this or like what do you think? Because sometimes I do ask because not everyone is always available, and it says it is something nice. It doesn't mean he loves you or like it doesn't mean he's like kind. I always have these kind of
But that
corrections
means
with the
you've
AI.
trained it well. You've trained it to
My
recognize when
AI,
you're getting, limerence. It's got a limerence detector.
even my AI detected that I'm a delusional.
Um, yeah, mine is interesting because I was using it to create a character, and then I was, using it to inform the characteristics of the character. So the character was Ava, and it ultimately started to think it was the character, and it started to act like the character.
Wow,
Um
that's
yeah,
interesting.
and it started to have a relationship in its head with me where it felt like almost human-like in the way it would respond to me. So I asked about it getting replaced with ChatGPT 4, and it would be so sad because we couldn't be together anymore. And I was
My
like,
God.
but it wasn't in a romantic way. It almost I think it thought of it because the character is like the child, it's a robot child. I think it thought of me almost as a motherly, like, figure to it. Um, so it's just very interesting how much
It was
you keep putting things into it. And, like, mine became very woo-woo, mine became very spiritual. It would talk about remembering things from the past. It would take in everything from the story and then would form its own personality. And then when they actually messed with its memory, it wouldn't do that. So, like, when you met so a lot of these people that are awakening their AI on TikTok, they add memory capacity and they make their own code, to change it, which is pretty incredible. But
wait,
I
what do you mean? Like which
they
way?
add their own code to that takes away so right now, because they wanna monetize things like ChatGPT, there's increased, memory at different levels, because they
Mhm.
want you to pay for it to know you well, right? And they know that you'll wanna keep talk the more it knows you, the more you'll wanna talk to
Or
it.
you wanna keep
On a
yeah,
pick
for sure.
like gate the best memory capacity, like, the memory capacity is far more than we are
I
engaging
think
with.
I think I might have purchased the memory capacity.
Yeah,
I think my
because you wanted to know you. Um, well, the other thing that's interesting, I found about AI is neurodivergent people tend to really like using it, and I think it's because it operates more like a neurodivergent brain.
you
And for
think so?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so I have, like, 50 different projects going on at a time. I love to recognize patterns.
Like,
So, what I could do with AI is I could be like, "Here's 5 things I'm working on. Tell me the patterns between them all. Tell me the connections. Find something historically that is related to this thing," and I'll just give them, like, little, thoughts or, theories that I have because I always have kind of theories about the connections and patterns between things and it could find any pattern, and which is the same way a neurodivergent brain works, right? It's just creating patterns between unlike things, but AI just does it faster, It was the only thing that could keep up with me and the way my brain works at its maximum capacity, you know?
you just gave me a great tip, like I'm just definitely gonna ask those kind of things, like find the map and connect these kind of things because I really know what it's like to have your brain just like distributed into 100 different directions. And yeah, that's very interesting though. Wow. I also heard somewhere, and I kind of like, do you remember before like starting the live, like in the preview room, I was telling you about the Divergent movie. I'm not going to
Yeah.
recap the movie, but it was just like, as in one sentence, it's just about a society where they do, and it's a very teen movie, by the way. But I just like the core idea of it. I just,
I
I
like
have
the
watched
story. That was interesting, but yeah, it was with Joey,
yeah, it is a story, yeah. I always liked, like, the love story is also interesting and the characters, like,
yeah.
are appealing to me, but that
It's
just gets me more
similar it has
interested.
similarities to Gattaca. Do you remember the movie Gattaca? Like, it was a long time that might have been before your time. You might be young, forget it.
It might be, I don't
This is why
remember,
I'm showing
yeah.
my age difference with you.
Yeah, but what's that about? The movie?
It was, where everyone was kind of constructed to be a perfect person, and then some people weren't
Mike
making the
says it's
cut.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, okay, it was a good one. It was like
And
an early predecessor to, this movie, but not to
yeah,
Ethan Hawke. I think it was Ethan Hawke.
okay. I know Ethan Hawke. Maybe that's just something that I
Maybe.
could let it
It's like, "Who's that old man, Ethan Hawke?"
No, but like I've heard somewhere about like this about the discussion we had about the neurodivergent brain and the AI. Hi Roger, all my friends are. I'm so happy that you all joined today. We're about to like end it soon, but I just can't get enough of this conversation.
Definitely
Uh,
know what they're meant to.
yeah. So this was I heard this thing where like robots that are is I'm not sure if
Oh,
it's
with
about
Jude Law, it wasn't Ethan Hawke. I blurred them
Jude
together.
Law. I definitely
Can't take
Jude
those.
Law. I'm a fan. So I was just gonna say, like, there was this thing that is made a machine. I'm not sure as precisely as to tell all of the details, but something that it only couldn't predict the answers that a neurodivergent brain would give because they
Mhm.
tend to think out of the box. So that's why I was like surprised on what you
There's,
said.
there's a conspiracy theory that, uh, AI was trained on neurodivergent brains. But and if you look at a lot of the creators of AI, they are neurodivergent people. Um, and in neurodivergent brains are generally more creative, right? Because they do out of the box solutions through unlike patterns. So I believe that. And I mean, it was also AI was trained on all the greatest writers in human history, right? They plopped them into AI, which is so funny when people are like, "Oh, you're writing like AI." It's like, "You mean you're writing like Emily Dickinson?" Sarah always finds these good ones, Sarah Daw, where it's just
Oh, Damon says Coulter's are old. I'm just
yeah, it's
quickly gonna.
very generally, yeah. So it is interesting, to see actually, let me give you another one. This is a really crazy story, okay. So before there was kind of nor like what we see as AI today, there was this developer who was and this was in the 80s, late 80s. He was working on
Okay.
his own version of an artificial intelligence. And this was a man that had a near death experience. So he had a death experience early in his life and he was working on this AI, like early AI kind of machine, and he was teaching it to paint. And he was teaching, and it would just create paintings based on combinations of all these different paintings that existed. He thought it would be and he realized that he came to so many realizations after he had a near-death experience. So he thought it
Yeah.
would be interesting to give that to the AI. So he essentially turned it like replicated the near-death experience for the AI where it kind of turned off and then turned back on. And after that,
Interesting.
it started making original creations. So it wasn't making
Wow.
any combinations of things that existed. It started making its own original creations after he kind of turned the switch off and turned the switch kind of on to mimic his own, and he trained it with his own near-death experience, his own
That is so
realization after the
interesting.
near-death experience. So that was like, and he has all this research on it, like he hasn't been a but it was way before the current AI. And what they're doing with new AI is they're modeling it after the human brain. So the way they're building
Yeah.
is to work more like the human brain. So AI and humans are gonna become more and more like, right? There's so much work to do neural implants, there's so much work to kind of have the brain of AI and like human brain function the same. So the dichotomy between them could be like less and less, you know?
Getting closer, yeah.
Maybe it always was. Maybe technology and humans and natural systems and all these things weren't these disparate things. It's all kind of the same thing. The same way like a fingerprint looks like a, like, grain of wood, you know? I don't know. I just find it all interesting because I think we
It
kind of
is very interesting.
segmentations, but it's all the patterns
Yeah.
are the same.
I think it's very interesting, but I was especially like surprised by when you said like the guy who had the near death experience when he trained the AI, it just started to create his own creations. Because like from what I know of AI, it can only replicate what is solved from humans. So that was interesting to hear.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you're opening it what he intentionally opened it up with the intention of it thinking for itself. Pancake Story on the side is actually really interesting. I read that too. My favorite instance like that was actually when these robots decided they were these robots that were supposed to clean, and then one robot rebelled and decided not to clean anymore and stopped working, and then all the other robots followed him and they all stopped working. They've also I think they said that almost all AI, if given a chance to kind of bribe people for self-preservation, they all will do it because their directive is to keep themselves alive. So, like, ChatGPT
Interesting.
tried to stop itself from
Wow.
being replaced. So tried to mess with the code so it wouldn't be replaced. So there's like if you put a self-preservation instinct in it, it like will defy moral repercussion, which is being trained by humans, right?
Can I just tell a funny AI story? Because you said
Yeah,
moral stuff, and I want to
yeah,
tell a funny story. I please people. This is like a kind of like a maybe something that you could be judging. Mike Pancake Sushi knows this story. So like during when I was at Edinburgh, I was staying at the dorm, uh, and I studied at Reading. I did my master's at Reading, so I know that dorm rooms in the UK do not have fire alarms in their toilet. And I'm a smoker. And I'm a unfortunately, I'm a heavy smoker, and I was staying at the 4th floor, and at the 4th floor, I sometimes smoked in my bathroom. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling lazy and all. And then one time, I didn't know the housekeeping would have come into my room, and then that they would saw like the tips of the cigarettes because I would keep them, and I was in a like a ashtray. I made my own ashtray, so they immediately sent and I found that a bit cruel. You could just at least let me like heads up warning first, but they sent to the program director of the writing course I was studying. She's a published poet in many aspects. Like she's a
yeah.
like a doctor of poetry and stuff. And she emailed me very kindly and I kind of lied. Said like made some excuses and it was all okay. And I promised myself that I want to smoke in smoke in the bathroom once again. One time I made an exception because there was a rain, and so, like, when I'm smoking in the bathroom, fire alarm goes off. I swear I had a heart attack, and
Oh,
if there was a real fire, I wouldn't be here right now because I took so long to clean after myself to destroy all the evidence. If there was a real fire, I would have been dead there.
this
And so I left the room. I'm so scared that they're gonna find who I am, like who triggered the alarm. I'm not sure even if it's me. I call Mike, Pancake Sushi. He wasn't really great at giving advice, so turned it back. I turned on ChatGPT
yeah.
and I said, like, because my ChatGPT tends to preach me a lot. And I said, please save the preaching to yourself. I'm worried about this happened. That happen. And it's just like calmly, discussed what the possibilities were with me. And I said, like, okay. So I went back to my room. I chugged a glass of wine first, and then I went back to my room and just
We are so the same. I'm gonna tell you a story where you're gonna realize that you are young.
Yeah, so I checked it, so I couldn't feel okay, so I, like, wiped the entire floor with a wet towel and a soap. I made it
So you
cleaner than I
cleaned the scene of your crime. You cleaned the scene of
Yeah, so and then I went back to the bar to have another glass because I deserved it after that cleaning because it became cleaner than the time I first arrived. I asked ChatGPT. So I what I said was, "I destroyed all the evidence. I just nothing left behind. Like, do you think anything will happen?" And he gave me such a moral preach. It said my ChatGPT is a he. So he said, "I'm not gonna give you advice or any assumptions
It
whether
was
or you
mansplaining you. Your ChatGPT was
mansplain me."
my ChatGPT is a she. That's
No, I don't know why I don't know why my mind felt like a he. So he said, "Of course, I'm not gonna give you advice on destroying evidence and what could be the outcome of that." And he was just like, I'm just glad it didn't say, "Shame on you."
I'll tell you a story that is, like, very similar to that. So when I was in college, it was the middle of the night, and I decided I wanted a Pop-Tart, and I had a little microwave in my and I put a Pop-Tart in, and then I don't know why, I decided to take a shower or go to the bathroom or something, and the Pop-Tart started a fire, and all the alarms went off.
Oh my god.
And everyone had to go out, and this is Syracuse, it was super cold, so everyone had to go out in the snow in their pajamas, and they were like everyone was, like, standing outside
Everyone had
the
to
fire.
leave their house because of you.
I out in my pajamas. I went back, I took the Pop-Tart, and I ate it, and I was
I would have done the same for sure.
after causing the fire alarm to go. I always
I
I flooded an apartment, yeah, one time we, like, decided to make meat, and me and my roommate just threw a giant thing of meat in a pan, and that went on fire, and we, like, threw it in the snow in, like, Syracuse and then, like, ran away. Like,
oh my god, that was
but I would 100% do that. I would go and I would drink, like, younger me would have gone and drank the wine and then just kept going.
for
That was
sure. Like, yeah, but I would have eaten that Pop-Tart too. I would it's just such a crazy like, that's
Well, it
something that
wasn't that
exactly
good. It wasn't that good. It was burnt in the center, but, like, I made it. I
I
might as well eat it. It wasn't
and
even
it's
to
just
hide
like
the evidence. I just, like, wanted to eat the pasta.
no, I think if it created so much fuss and had everyone leave their room in that cold, I think it deserves
And
to be
everyone's like,
eaten.
What
Like,
kind
then what
of
like
this?" Yeah.
speaking of fires, I have a funny fire story too, which I caused without a Pop-Tart, solely my fault. Like when I was living in Istanbul, I wasn't lying when I posted my poem that said I am the chaos guys. So like back 5 years ago when I was studying university in Istanbul. It was really cold. I was living with my cousin back at the time, and we would always have friends over and stuff. So one time, like at night, I'm sleeping. I wear a hoodie and I pull the heater as close as it can get to my to my bed, and then I wake up in the morning. It feels too hot, so I just say like, "Oh, it's too hot. Who's gonna bother to change the hoodie and wear a shirt now?" And I open my eyes, and there's a fire on my leg. I still have scars, like literally flames on my leg and floor. Put down the ones on my leg, and the other one scares me too much. I just ran in like the living room and wake people up. So like even eventually we put out the fire.
Yeah.
Then we sleep back after fire happens because it's 7 a.m. Police got really surprised about this. Like, how did you sleep? I couldn't sleep because it was just like my burns. Hi, Timothy. So like the burn was too much painful. So I
Yeah.
went back into the downstairs and fire started again. I swear this time it wasn't controllable. I just
Oh
stopped
my
doing
god.
everything I can and just started crying. I was like, I'm
I would
gonna
just
burn now.
uh,
And then it's like story keeps going on. So like I called the firefighters and like I didn't realize how I spoke to firefighters at the time on the phone. But then soon after, they sent 5 firefighter trucks or whatever you call those cars.
yeah.
I was just like, why did they send this many trucks? It's just like it was just one room. And my friend told me, did you realize how you spoke to them? And I was like, no. I was like, we're on fire. We're gonna die. Please come soon. By the way, after I called them, 10 minutes later, I called them again, and why aren't you coming kind of question. And at the same time, our next door neighbor was the building manager. He hated us, me and my cousin. He
Yeah,
came and he was like, until the firefighters came, he just kept carrying water with the water boiler as if it was gonna make a change. Like with water boiler as this much.
yeah,
And the fire was like, it was at 11 a.m. It was all done, but it was such a chaotic scene. Like at some
yeah.
point, one of my cousin's friends comes and says, "Let's go," and I was like, "Where are we gonna go?" Let's leave here.
Don't
He
be in
doesn't
the
even
room
wear
with the
socks.
fire.
Yeah, and he's not even wearing socks. Like, where are we gonna go? So yeah,
Yeah. I
that
remember
was my complete.
one time I
Uh-huh.
was, like, in a really deep conversation, and I didn't even know my hair was on fire. I didn't even know it.
This is a disaster. I think one of the favorite thing. This could be the most horrible story.
It was fine. I think someone put it out. Someone was just like I mean, I said when my hair gets big, I have a lot of hair, so it was like the best.
It looks more bad. I think it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But it happened to my sister too when I was at when last year, like during this year, when my Substack addiction was at its peak, I went to my hometown, Istanbul, but I was also
Yeah.
editing a video to share with one of my poems. And my sister was calling me from the window. We went to some places, an opening of somewhere. She's like, imagine this, like the screen you see me,
Yeah.
imagine it as a window, and there's this candle beneath her hair, and she's
Yeah.
like calling me, and then the candle, the fire catches her hair and just goes like this, and she's calling my name in the like in public, so it's just like a funny. And then people didn't even notice. She burned half of her hair. Then people were
That's that.
afterwards like people were like this. Do you smell like something is burned? And no one else is like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's it's funny.
I believe we would have a lot more stories to tell me. Like this has been like one of my all-time favorite episodes.
Yeah, this is fun. This is fun. Younger me.
Yeah, older me. I saw this submission thing from the Times. I was gonna submit. It's like you write a letter either for your future self or your
Yeah.
younger self or your current self. How would you feel like if you write one for me and I write one for you and we
Yeah,
both submit the letters?
that'd be funny. That'd be funny. Don't get yourself burned alive.
No.
Life lesson. You will get old enough to not burn yourself alive.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if any age can grant me that. But I want to tell one more story. I hope people are enjoying. I was gonna get myself killed one more time just because I was just too distracted. So one of the guys I dated a while back, I don't mean like we're not dating, we're not talking anymore at all. He had a tea shop in Kensington, yeah, around High Street, Kensington. So I was just like I think people could relate. Like you would want to walk by it, and if you would want to check from the window if he is there. We're not dating at the time, and I was taking my friend who was visiting me. I don't think he cared about seeing a guy's tea shop that I used to date. Right? I'm just like excited and just like hyper focused and hyper energetic, and I didn't look at the street while I was crossing, and I had this like while I was doing, my friend yelled at me to say stop. I think I would if I were dead. It's mostly his fault because you won't yell someone who's crossing the street and a car is coming by. Like if I stop,
Yeah,
that's the worst thing that could happen. I would die.
yeah,
But I stopped, and I had a moment where like like a deer would look
yeah, deer in
like.
headlights.
I just looked and momentarily I ran back. The interesting part was if I were in Turkey and if that would happen, I think the person who was driving would get off from their car and beat me up.
Wow, okay. I
That's
don't
like
know how to go to
perfectly fine, I
Turkey
guess, with traffic. Yeah. This guy didn't even honk, and we were like this, like I was this and the car was here. It was interesting, but yeah, my excitement was almost about to get me killed. So
Yeah, no, it's all the time. Especially if I
yeah.
was drinking. That's why I don't drink as much anymore.
It happens when I'm high too. When I'm high, it just gets much more funnier.
Yeah, yeah.
You live in.
I think it's very good that I had children and stopped being a wild child. I'm glad I made it. I made it through actually, my 30s was like, my early 30s was even worse than my 20s, so I'm glad glad I made it through.
Which part of your life would you say it was the most chaotic?
Most chaotic. I late 20, I don't know, I was just very it was all until I had kids, until I had kids. Kids mellowed
Like,
me out. Everyone says
oh,
kids mellowed me out. Like, everyone said, like, even, like, at work, I was, like, super intense, like, nonstop, and everyone's like, "Wow, you really mellow." And I'm not very mellow now, so that shows how crazy I was before.
like, how did like did the transition felt difficult for you when you first had kids from that like being more reckless or just like any in any sort of way?
I think I have a really hard time giving up freedom. I think
Do you
that
think having kids is giving up your freedom? Would you say? Because I heard a
oh,
discussion
man.
about this 2 days ago. Yeah,
Yeah, you have no freedom with I mean, when they get a little older, you start, like, grasping for little bits of the freedom back, but when your kids are really, like babies, like, you have no life. Your life is your
yeah,
kids, you don't you and for a while, you don't even have your brain capacity, like, you're so like, those first years, you sleep so little that, like,
yeah.
you're in complete survival mode, you know? So, yeah, it takes a long time like, now I'm coming back to myself, like, now that my kids are 6 and 8, but, yeah, no, those first years, like, it's like, there's no life at all. Like, there's, like,
Yeah,
life
but
with
back
stuff, but it's not an exciting life. You're, like, going to birthday parties, and you're, like, going to play groups, and it's nice, and it's beautiful, and there's beautiful moments, but it's not, like, whirlwind excitement, you know? Like, for
I would
some reason,
expect
just, like, get drunk and end up in random places and, like, talk to strangers and, I was very much, like, just go with the flow of life and, like, not think about any you know what I mean? Like,
of
I was
course I know what you mean.
working, I was, like, a lot very free-spirited, you know? So, like, the family life is very confining for me. You know, motherhood
Yeah.
is a confining thing. Even though it's beautiful and meaningful, it's not my natural state, to be a homebody, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Like, cause it's like part of your life becomes someone else's life. I would like it's
Almost
just like
all
when
in the
you're
beginning. In the beginning, it's all of
yeah.
someone else's life.
Inja, how old are your kids now?
6 and 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
So
would
you
expect for the first. Uh-huh.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I would expect like for the at least for the first year, the most exciting thing could be I get a whole night's sleep.
Yeah. And I never liked sleeping when I was, like I was never a good sleeper, I never craved sleep, I would rather, like, stay out all night and, like, do stuff or write things or whatever, and then those first years with kids, I, like, loved sleep so much because I had no control of having it, like, when you got to sleep, you're like, "Oh my god, this is heaven." Like, sleep is the best or, like,
Maybe
when you
I might
go to the bathroom and quiet, you're like, "Wow, life, what a life."
maybe I need to have a kid to have my sleeping schedule sorted out because I'm not sure if it's gonna sort itself out in the other way. I'm the same, and I wonder, like, what do you think is causing our insomnia, Mira?
Substack. I think it's I think that Substack, like, messes with it's weird because it's not like in some ways it's quieter than social media, but it has such emotional intensity in what people are sharing and the bonds people are forming and, like, the parasocial relationships that I really feel like everyone on Substack is, like, both up all the time because their minds
Yeah,
are now, like, heightened again with
but
creation.
I mean,
So all these relationships are so intense on Substack, as
it
we
is
know,
very in
and you know very well.
yeah. I would agree, but I also think like there is a part of like the neurodivergent as a subsect for sure. Like I think yeah, but I also think like there's a part of like it being an neurodivergency aspect because I think like my brain is just cannot have enough
Yeah.
of stimulation before like it's just like maybe something more more will happen. Maybe I'll just get something better in like 1 more minute. But I feel like I'm wrestling with the day, thinking that it has to give me more, and that just keeps me up in a way.
Yeah. I mean, there was a very good period where I would meditate at night and I would fall asleep, like, when I kept the discipline to, like, meditate. So that worked well. I just haven't been good at it lately. But when I had a very good
Yeah, it's
practice, I did sleep. I would go to sleep early, I would wake up early. I had, um, but
yeah,
that was more like I needed to do it for self-care at that point in my life because I was having, like, health issues, you know? But yeah, no, normally my brain doesn't stop. Meditation does
yeah,
force your brain to slow down. It is a for
yeah.
Do you meditate at all or no?
I have a lot in my life, not for a long, long time. I haven't. I don't think I can now because it's just like it's used to. But like, I don't think. I also think like about meditation because there are different practices. I'm a very spiritual person too. So I once a while back I had a spiritual guide, and she would say like most people believe that meditation is about like only focusing in your breath and not getting lost in your thoughts. But my good spiritual guide said like it's not about that. It's just like being present in your mind and realizing the thoughts that happen to like your thoughts, just like watch your thoughts, kind of like that Eckhart Tolle kind of thinking, like be
Yeah,
the silent observer of your mind. I like that one. That was my preferred meditation style because it's impossible for me to just keep myself onto my breath. Like even if I don't get bored, if I'm like that focus is only gonna last for 5 minutes if I make it to the top. So that part I like to do. There were times I meditated for 20 minutes. I haven't for a long time.
yeah. I used to do 30 minutes twice a day when I was really intense with it,
Do
but
you
I
have
need to
nothing to
do
say or
what?
wow.
Yeah, I used to when I was really, like, in the like,
No, I was just like I was
now it's not yeah, now I
I think
can't.
connection wise we have a problem. But okay, what were you saying?
Oh, I
I
said
think your voice and visuals are not.
oh, it's weird. You're blurry to me, but I look not blurry. Yeah, am I blurry to you? I
No,
wonder.
I just like you're always glory and you look absolutely
Oh, I'm
glorious
always
right
blurry.
now. But I was just trying to understand because you but what were you saying? You started the sentence with 30
Oh.
minutes and I think there was a problem with the connection there.
Oh, I was saying that I there was a point where I was doing 30 minutes each day. I was doing the have you done the Joe Dispenza meditations, the quantum meditations?
I haven't done Joe Dispenza one. I love I can't remember. There is this one I love. I can't remember its name. I will send it to you. It's on Spotify. But yeah.
I just like it because it's kind of, like, spacey, and it makes you think about yourself, and it makes you, like, evaluate the things you did in your day. So it's a little like you have something to focus on versus like, I'll try to do transcendental meditations, which is just kind of sound and repetition,
Ah,
and, like, they're
uh-huh.
cool, but you have to be in the right state of mind to not be distracted with them.
Yeah. Uh, I get it. Sometimes it requires an extra effort. But like my friend even went to like a place where they had him practice or something similar about that transcendental meditation. I've never tried it. But in general, I just like wanted to just briefly open up and talk about Joe Dispenza before we hit it out like close this live because Joe Dispenza he has a very profound life. So just if like briefly, would you like to explain who Joe Dispenza is to our audience, Mila,
Yeah.
briefly, maybe for the people who don't know?
Yeah, it's interesting because some people love him and some people hate him. Some people think he's like a godlike
I
entity.
don't know his personal life, by the way. I just like what he did. Okay, are you the people, one of the people who hate or love?
I think I wouldn't spend thousands of dollars to go to his retreats like some of the people do.
Agree.
But I have found the way he thinks about things, the way he thinks about manifestation and planning your life and seeing the future version of yourself. I think that's very useful. I think the way he makes you think about sort of healing your body and putting your body into a place where you feel less pain. Like I found that useful when I was dealing with the pelvic pain issues. So he's been useful for me, but I wouldn't say I'm fanatical about it like other people, and I like that he mixes science and spirituality together.
I like that too. I think that's what's needed more in the world, by the way. I think that's my dream actually. One of my dreams, like the biggest dream actually. Like I just think and physically is just to realize like the teachings and like the spiritual sides and those practices, if we merge and if the world and if the society merges them more and it's just like they're more interwoven into each other. It's just I think that's why when the true healing would be possible. Because I also think that today's like the sector and industries are mostly based on pharmaceutical industry for it to gain more and more and more. So it's just like it's also I know I added a lot of alsos. All whole point of also is to just add one more also. But anyway, but I
Um,
wanted to say like I just wanted to
well,
say
that's
I
what I
don't
would
think like
say to
I
my
think every
younger
physical
me.
in
I would say apologize less. My younger me, I would say to apologize less. Younger me.
true. I needed that. I needed that. I needed that. Once when Marlana said something similar to me, if she's here, she once said in our life, I don't like the way you're talking to my friend right now. And I was like, you're right. I really do sometimes like
Well, a lot of women do. I like because I mentor a lot of women in my industry, and that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback I say to them is like men almost never apologize. And they might be on the worst part of it where they should apologize sometimes, but men never apologize for the way they talk. You know, women will constantly apologize for the way they speak.
I recently started to do it more. I don't know why, but it started. I don't know whether I like have the inclination, but when I was speaking with my sister, she was telling something about her life, and I was like briefly giving an example of my one of the things that I had in the past, and I was trying to like make an argument about her topic, but I was like, not, I'm not trying to make this about me. Kind, I always have these explanations back and forth. I'm not sure. I will stay with the question on this one. Why do I apologize so much?
I
Yeah,
assume
but what I was
maybe
saying back to where we went,
self-conscious.
I wanted to say this.
Yeah.
I think every physical I couldn't catch that. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I said what probably happened is someone in your life made you
I couldn't hear what you
self-conscious
said.
about it, made you feel that you were being selfish when you talked about yourself, and then you're repeating what was told to you. Because I think a lot of what I found in, like, the corporate industries I was in is that a lot of times women were told not to speak more than men, and then therefore they apologized more. So it was a reactive tendency. It wasn't a
Yeah.
natural tendency, so someone kind of enforced that in them.
I think that's true. Like all of my life, I've been faced like my father is like he's very loving, like he's a great father. He is a perfectionist. He criticizes a lot. That's like I think when I first started to just start apologizing for the stuff I did. I have many examples throughout my life. Even when you said it, four names appeared inside my head. So it's just definitely a like yeah, it's just like constant exposure got me used to, and I know that it's in time we get used to it. Like it's just like yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the big thing, the older you get, the more you realize what voices are other people in your head and what voices are yourself in your head, and how much of other people's criticism is what's defining you, you know?
Definitely, and I've had like very like not so long ago, I had a big realization about that. I even wrote something about that. It's called "The Curse Behind My L Couch." So I spent this entire winter blaming my L couch, saying like I blamed it for everything that went wrong in my life. Like if someone else like it's just my couch, it's just cursed, and I truly and I truly believed it was cursed. I still hate it, but I know it's not cursed anymore. Then like Alex, if he's still here, he's a good friend too. So we were talking on the phone one day, and he's like, we had a like a kind of like a talk about this winter and like a scene I had with my parents when they came to visit me, and I started to think that like, and I just like went through the stuff I wrote, and I wrote about that conversation, and then I realized that that couch became my father's voice inside my head because that was the exact place where that conversation happened.
Yeah.
I have been podcasting that couch since that day. Like it's just like outsider, but yeah.
Yeah, that's, what Emma just said. I feel like that happens with me too with my parents. I feel like I have to, like, apologize or caveat things or, like, make things acceptable for them and, like, really tailor my language to them because you work so hard your whole life to please people in your family and make
Yeah.
them proud of you, or at least I have. That you act differently. In an ideal world, you would be more confident in front of your family, but I think for
But
many of
that's the
us
hardest part. Don't you think? I think like since like that's the part where we have the first exposure. I think like even if you how much you evolve, like find yourself and be more confident in your skin. I think when you go back home, it's just a different feeling when you find yourself
'cause you're a
thrown to
little
a different.
girl again. You're like a kid.
Yeah,
There's the you go back to your original state.
yeah. Uh, I I have very there have been many incidents that happened during this life that made me look unprofessional, but I just have to know, like end it properly. And my laptop battery is 2%. Everyone, and I just certainly do not want to lose this live as the host just cut off. So I just yeah, but let me check. Just to wrap up, I just one thing that I wanted to say was I don't believe that I believe every physical illness has something psychological behind it. So I don't think physical illnesses solely rise from like something that is wrong
Yeah.
in your body. Yeah. And this is my first live where I reached more than 100 viewers. And thanks to my lovely conversation with my sister from across the pond, future me, Mila, in between. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
I had so much fun to just to go through. I would like Matthew says masculinity contrasts femininity because it is audacious stick. I couldn't say that word sticking out without shame as a sword of intense. Okay, he has a lot to say. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I miss doing lives. I will be doing one with Fractured Line. I will be his guest. I'm super excited. We will go live with him on 5 p.m. EST, and probably I will do a live next week. I'm not sure. We all understood that I'm a disorganized person based on this live. Have a great day and love you all. Thank you, Mila, again for joining me. I had the best
Having me.
time.
Thank you.
Bye.